Well, here we are again. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We just accomplished one tidbit a few minutes ago, and we're going to go on and look at another one. The goal of Christian life and the warning against Judaizers. In the book of Philippians, Paul wrote to the Philippians, and these were people that lived in Philippi, and they had started a church. And Paul had taught them how to act in a church. He said, "Finally, my brethren, rejoice in the Lord. To write the same things to you, to me indeed, is not grievous, but for you it is safe. Beware," he said, "of dogs. Beware of evil workers. Beware of the conscience. Beware of those things that come after you that don't belong in the church." He said over in verse 22, "But ye know the proof of him that as a son with the Father, he has served with me in the gospel," talking about one of the fellows that was with Paul, and he was a blameless. In 15 it said, "That ye may be blameless, harmless, the Son of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world." Do you shine as a light in the world? We're going to talk about being a light for God today in the world. Let's start in verse 12 of chapter 2 of Philippians. It said, "Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Do all things without murmuring or disputing." If you're a Sunday school teacher and you're walking from your class and you're walking out into the vestibule, and in the aisle somehow there's some trash, and somebody says to you, maybe one of the deacons or maybe even a lay person in the church, "Would you get a broom and clean this trash up, please?" Are you above that because you're a Sunday school teacher? Are you able to run, grab a broom and a dustpan, take off and do that? Are you a person when you walk across the parking lot, you see a paper cup or a styrofoam cup blowing in the parking lot, or a soda can or something out there, and you may be long enough saved so that you've been delivered from some things like smoking, and you're standing on the front porch and somebody has been callous enough to throw a cigarette butt right there in front of the door. Are you going to pick it up, or are you going to complain about it and say, "Oh, that heathen," or whatever? You may be just as much a heathen for not picking it up. Listen, are you going to do what's required of you? And that's you watch out for things, other things in God's house. You watch out for them. You take care of them. Is there a pothole in the parking lot? You hit it every now and then with your tire. And you come up to the deacons and say, "Hey, deacons, how about getting that pothole fixed?" Well, how about you getting in your vehicle one day, go over to Walmart, Home Depot, and get a bag of a pothole patch and go over there and patch that pothole? Why don't you do that rather than talk about it? Why don't you take care of things rather than talk about it? You know, God's house will work fine, fitly put together, rightly, if everybody does their part. If everybody does their part, you are going to always have new people coming in. You're going to have unchurched people coming in. You're going to have guys come in with their hat on and sit there with their hat on. What is your job? Your job is to side up beside that guy and say, "Hey, you a visitor today?" And they say, "Yes, I am." And you shake their hand and say, "I'm Brother Peter. I'm sure I'm glad to have you here. I believe, sir, you'd be much more comfortable in the church building if you take your hat off. It's up to you. You may keep it on if you'd like, but if you take it off, I think you'd be more comfortable. Most people don't wear a hat in the church." And that person will 9 times out of 10, they'll take their hat off and you'll befriend them. They'll be your friend from now on for telling them that such a thing. It's like coming up to a man, you're shaking hands with him and his fly is unzipped and you say, "Sir, your fly is unzipped." Well, he is glad you told him. He's glad you told him. Yes, you're a little embarrassed to tell him, but he's more embarrassed if you didn't tell him that it was. So listen, there is a being realistic. Let's be realistic in our Christian life. Let's do what we're supposed to do in our Christian life. Do not walk by a gum wrapper. When you leave the church, do you leave candy papers in the pew? Do you leave something for somebody else to pick up? And you say, "Well, we pay a crew to pick it up." Well, big deal. I bet you're a skinflint. Don't put $2 in the offering plate. And that comes down to the matter of tithing. Tithing is 10% of whatever you make. If you make $400 before tax, your tithing is $40. 10% of what you made. Not what you take home. 10% of what you make is your tithing. You put $40 in the offering. If you make $400, you put $40 in the offering. You say, "I can't afford to put $40 in the offering every week out of my $400. Well, maybe God will knock you down to $200 where you can put $20 a week in. How about that? Or knock you down to $100 where you can put $10 a week in. How about that? You better obey what God said. Let's get back in the book. "For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do his good pleasure. Do all things without murmuring and disputing." This is what I just got done saying. Don't murmur about the things you see that need fixing. Fix them. Don't murmur about things that you see. Take care of it. "That ye may be blameless and harmless, the Son of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world." You want to shine as a light? Hey, when I'm in the hospital, visiting the hospital, walking down the corridor, I see something out of place, I fix it. I take care of it. It's none of my business, but I still take care of it. I pick it up, put it in the nearest wastebasket. Do whatever you got to do. Do what's right. You're a light. You are a light. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Do what's right. And if you're in the parking lot, Walmart parking lot, you say, "I'm in Walmart parking lot, there's trash everywhere. People just throw stuff around." They might do it. If you have to, get you a Walmart bag out of the back seat of your car and carry it in with you and pick it up. Pick stuff up and put it in the bag and deposit it in the trash can. You're being watched. You are being watched. What kind of person are you? You see a can, you just kick it out of the way? Or do you pick it up? Listen, I'm talking about being realistic, a realistic Christian, that you may be blameless and harmless, the Son of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom you shine as lights, holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of Christ, that I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain. If Jesus went to the cross for you and I, isn't the least we could do would be pleasant? Can you be pleasant? I don't care if all hell breaks loose in your house in the morning. I don't care if you have a flat tire and the motor don't crank. You do not have a right to be ugly. You are a chosen people. We are a chosen people. And we are a work in progress ourselves. But if we're going to be a work in progress, we've got to do what God would have us do. Yea, and if I be offered up the sacrifice and the service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all. For the same cause also do ye joy and rejoice with me. Hey, do you know that Paul rejoiced in the prison? Do you know at 12 o'clock midnight, Paul and Silas sang a hymn to God, sang a song? Do you know that in the prison, Peter was turned loose by the angels? Do you know that do you know that Paul never went to prison? He went to prison several times. You know he never went to prison. He didn't win the jailer to the Lord. Listen, while he was in prison, they'd make him the chief guy. They'd make him the head guy. Why? Because his light so shined. He shined that way. He didn't get ugly. If the guard beat him, he tried to win the guard to the Lord. Whatever happened. It said, but I trust in the Lord Jesus to send Timotheus shortly unto you, that I also may be of good comfort when I know your state. Now he's writing this letter to them. He doesn't know completely their state. So he's sending one of his young men over there, Timothy, that he has called himself to be a preacher. And so he sent Timothy over there, and he said, I have no man like-minded who will naturally care for your state. Wow. Are you like Timothy? Are you a like-minded man that you'll care for whoever you're around, you care for their state? Are you in a church that has some poor folks in it? Do you care for their state? What do you do once a year when you clean your freezer out? What do you do with it? You got food in your freezer, you know it's been there 6 months, and you know you're of such a habit of eating fresh food and everything that you've let that food stay long and you're not going to eat it. Because the best thing would be to buy some fresh food and give it to this poor guy. But the least you could do is give him what's in your freezer. By the way, I have a man in our church that gave, when I had 6 children at home and I was working and we had just got saved, and I had a man every year call me out and said, Pete, we're going to vamp our freezer over again this year. Would you come empty it? I'd go over there and the crazy freezer would be slap full, and I'd empty it. And what we didn't use, we took around and gave to other people in the same shape we were in. But there was a man doing what God would have him do. Give us what was in his freezer. And he said, but listen to this. For I have no man like him. Wow, what a statement. Like-minded. I don't have another man like-minded as Timothy. He is a like-minded man. He is a man that knows what his job is, and his job is to fulfill whatever task comes up before him, whether it be sweep the floor, pick up a can, or whatever it is. For all seek their own, not the things which are Jesus Christ. Wow. Man, this is like I was saying about the Sunday school teacher that seeks his own. Oh, he's got a little preeminence. Put his thumb on him. I teach Sunday school, but I ain't sweeping that floor. I ain't picking up that trash out there. I'm not going to patch that pothole in the parking lot. I'm not doing those kind of things. That's not what I do. I teach. Wow. I suppose his teaching don't go any further. He couldn't get out of a wet paper bag. If he had to, his teaching wouldn't either. But ye know the proof of him, that as a son with the Father, he has served with me in the gospel. Him, therefore, I hope to send presently, so soon as I shall see how it will go with me. But I trust in the Lord that I also myself shall be able to come shortly. Paul knew that he was in prison and he wouldn't be able to come for a while. He would like to be released so he could come shortly. But nevertheless, he was going to send a man in his stead that he trusted, wholeheartedly trusted, to come and to help and to be a help for them. And so he sent him over there. I suppose it necessary to send you Epaphroditus, my brother, and companion in labor, and fellow soldier, but your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants. Listen, are you helping the preacher that you're sitting under? Ministering to his wants and needs. And then second to that, the deacon board, the deacons and whatever. Second to that, the people. Are you ministering unto everybody in the church? I am not an elected deacon. Do not want to be an elected deacon. I have been a chosen deacon of God ever since I've been in the church, since 1972. Chosen of God to act like a deacon. And that's what I've done. And that's what I do. Not a chosen deacon by people, but a chosen by God. And that's what I do. And that's what you need to do. Every man needs to be a deacon. Every woman needs to be a deaconess. You need to help anywhere, anybody, anything you can help where you see needs help. Our time is come and gone. I must go now. I'll see you next time. Brother Peter with Tidbit.